Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I promised myself I'd at least go one meeting before I had a gaveling incident like Chair Rolfe used to have. So thank you all for gathering and welcome to our September meeting. I have a few more comments I'll hold till we get to the chair's report. So again, welcome to the meeting. Appreciate you all being here. So just to get ourselves in the groove, we'll do the very familiar review and approval of minutes. Is there a motion or any discussion about the minutes?
I'd move that we approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
Thank you for your radio voice. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? And all right, well, hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, I signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes carry. So we have a number of introductions that we'll be doing, which is not surprising given this is our first meeting of the academic year. So we look forward to meeting all these folks. So let's just do this going from my right to left. So Tisa, how about you go first? I'm sorry, President Mason.
There you go. I'm pleased to introduce our faculty, staff, and student government leaders for the academic year. We have some online. So are we connected online? There we go. Great, thanks. Our faculty staff Senate President, Dr. Shane Schartz, is with us today. Thank you, Shane. Shane's an associate professor of informatics. He was born and raised in Ellis, Kansas, has a bachelor's and a master's degree from Fort Hays State University, and a PhD from K-State. His research area focuses on AI and data analytics. Shane Schartz.
Welcome.
On behalf of our staff president, who is joining us via online, Bob Duffy. Bob, can you wave? Bob is our drug and alcohol counselor. He's also an excellent photographer, and his favorite subject is Fort Hays State University. It's rare to attend campus events and not see Bob with his camera capturing many memories. Our online student government.
Good afternoon.
Our online student government president, Heather Flick, joins us also via Zoom. Heather's waving. We have had an online student government for nearly 10 years. It was nested within our Student Government Association, and this past spring, OSGA became a standalone organization. Heather is a senior at Fort Hays State, majoring in psychology. She'll be graduating this May and plans on continuing her studies at Fort Hays in clinical psychology this fall. She lives in Ellenwood, Kansas, with her husband, 3 children, and 2 dogs. Ella Burrows is here today. And Ella will serve a second term as our on-campus student body president. Ella is a political science major, a 4th-generation Tiger, and holds many, many other leadership positions across campus. As we embark on this academic year, I want to thank our shared governance leaders. Their collective energies and talents, coupled with their diverse and thoughtful perspectives, are the driving force between our university's progress. Together, we'll continue to move forward with purpose and change. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. President Muma.
Thank you, Regents. Good to be back here, first part of the semester. I have one introduction. Dr. Aaron Mitchell, right here, became our Senior Vice President for Administration, Finance, and Operations in August of this year, replacing Werner Goling. He comes to WSU with experience working in financial leadership positions in high-growth government and higher education institutions. From 2019 to 2024, Aaron served as Associate Vice President for Financial Services at Montana State University. And before serving in this role at Montana State, he worked as a controller for the North Dakota State University Systems Office of Core Technology Services and as a municipal finance director for both the Watford City and West Fargo, North Dakota municipalities. Aaron holds a PhD in Education, Health, and Behavior Studies and a Master's of Public Administration from the University of North Dakota and a Bachelor's of Science with a dual major in Business Administration and Accounting from North Dakota State University, and he is a licensed certified public accountant. Please welcome Aaron.
Congratulations and welcome. President Ship, I understand you have an introduction as well.
Good afternoon, Regents. Good to see you all. So I have the honor of introducing Dr. Susan Bond. Susan. Susan is a new executive vice president and provost at Pitt State University. And we, this is interesting. I said it this morning, but I'll say it here for those of you who didn't hear it. Makes me a little nervous because she's also my boss, because many of you know I'm also the interim dean of the College of Technology. So I want to get this right.
I thought she said you were the interim dean, but
Well, that may change after today, right? Dr. Bond is a professor, scholar, and national leader who has been focused on law and policy, disability law, civic engagement, workplace civility, and ethical leadership during her 25 years in academics. Over the past 5 years, she served as co-principal investigator on 2 grants totaling nearly $4 million from the U.S. Department of Education. As an academic leader, Dr. Bond has served in leadership roles across the University of South Carolina, most recently serving as interim associate dean in the College of Education. She earned her law degree and doctorate in education policy and leadership from the Ohio State University. So welcome, Dr. Bond. Another senior leader joining our team is Emily McElwain. Emily is our new executive director of university affairs. She joins Pitt State as coming from CSU Pueblo, where she served as assistant dean of student life, overseeing residence life, student conduct, and campus recreation. Prior to her 6 years in Colorado, she spent 10 years at the University of Missouri in various roles within student affairs, departing as an associate director of student development, membership, and revenue generating programs. She earned her bachelor's degree in communication and master's degree in education from the University of Missouri. Welcome, Emily. Now I have 2 amazing student leaders to introduce to you, Ms. Hannah Eckstein. Hannah is a senior at Pittsburgh State University, majoring in biology with a pre-medicine emphasis in Spanish. As student body president, she is striving to meet students where they are, find new ways to increase campus engagement, and foster opportunities for all students, regardless of educational status and background. She is serving as the Student Advisory Committee Chair this year and is excited to get to work with so many talented students from across the great state of Kansas. In the future, she plans to attend the University of Kansas School of Medicine, so be on the lookout, Chancellor, and she'll continue to serve Kansas as a very patient-driven physician. So everyone, Hannah. We also have Chris Rubesh with us, and she's our vice president, serving along with Hannah. Chris, thank you for your service this next year. So it plans to be an exciting year at Pittsburgh State University with all these amazing leaders. Thank you.
And I'm new here, so I missed some of the applause for the Pittsburgh State team. So I'm sorry, Fort Hays State team. So let's get them as well. I take it you have some, President Lynn, since
I
you
do
jumped
have a
to the
couple.
podium.
I've got two introductions and one announcement. Teresa Douthit is here, K-State Faculty Senate President, Professor in Animal Sciences. Give her a big round of applause. We also have with us Paige Vogelmore, who's the Kansas State Student Body President, majoring in Ag Economics. Give her a big round of applause. You might remember that last name as her brother was the student body president just 2 years ago. And then a great announcement, our very own Carl and Mary Ice have been inaugurated into the Kansas State Athletics Hall of Fame for their support of the university and for K-State athletics. Give them a big round. Ice, ice, baby.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you recognizing. Where's my jet?
You're gonna start rapping there for a minute. I got a couple introductions as well. First, I'd like to welcome our new student body president, and I saw Danae Estabe here. She's here. Anyway, she's our new student body president. I'm really excited to work with her this year. She was our vice president last year, so she's well versed in the activities of student governance. She's hopes to complete her dual degree as a JD and a PhD, and wants to really work in reforming the criminal justice system as both prosecutor and hopefully eventually a judge. She's a major, her senior, she's majoring in psychology with minors in philosophy and business, because that's what you do. And has gotten great experience already. She interned for Senator Moran, and then this last summer has actually interned in the Kansas Attorney General's office as well. So really excited to work with Danae this year as our student body leader. And we can give her a round of applause when she comes back in. And I'd also like to introduce, and then if you'll indulge me, have him say a few words, and that's our Foundation Distinguished Professor, Mark Shiflett, who is the director of the Wonderful Institute for Sustainable Engineering, and that is named after the wonderful company. We just didn't make that up ourselves. And really his area of focus on his research is energy, water, food, and climate. Mark joined KU in 2016 after 28 years at DuPont. And there he really, he actually invented 3 new refrigerants that are now used worldwide and have replaced the chlorofluorocarbons that we're all familiar with that were depleting the ozone layer. He has created a center that you're going to hear about called the Environmentally Applied Refrigerant Technology Hub, or EARTH. And that was just announced to receive one of our largest grants ever, an NSF grant of $26 million over 5 years to support this center as a new Gen 4 engineering research center. They awarded 4 of those this year across the country out of hundreds of applications, and there are currently 15 active energy engineering research centers. And so really, really great distinguishment for both Mark and for the School of Engineering at KU. But it's also a highly collaborative effort. There are multiple universities, as you can see on this slide. Lehigh University, Maryland, Notre Dame, and South Dakota are part of this collaborative. But actually, there are over 25 companies that are part of this collaborative as well. And really, the work is going to be working on the next generation of refrigerants for this country and the world, really. So if you'd indulge me, I'd like to have Mark explain a little bit about what this is all about.
Certainly.
That'd be all right?
Yeah.
Dr. Shiflett, please come on up.
And I believe you updated us at the campus visit last year as well.
We did,
right? Yeah.
yes,
so
yeah,
It was interesting then, I'm sure even more so now.
thank you. Well, I'm very excited to be here. This was about a 3-year process to go through winning an ERC. And as the chancellor mentioned, there were hundreds of teams that applied, and there were 4 that were selected. And I think that means that the National Science Foundation really believes in what we're trying to do, which is to reinvent air conditioning and refrigeration in this country. And so I'd like to just go through a couple slides with you to talk to you about what we're going to do. Think about this. Over 90% of refrigerants leak into our atmosphere. There are very few compounds that we make synthetically as humans where 90% of it ends up in our environment. And you probably have experienced having an air conditioner or a refrigerator that didn't work because the refrigerant leaked out. Hydrofluorocarbons, which are the refrigerants used today, they're 2,000 to 4,000 times more potent greenhouse gases than CO2. And they actually contribute to 8% of global warming. Another thing that's important to keep in mind is that 20 to 30% of the electricity used in the United States is for air conditioning and refrigeration. And I'm sure you can, relate to that because your electric bill in the summertime is probably $200-300, and most of that is for running your air conditioner. There's going to be a major increase in the number of heat pumps used in this country to replace fossil fuel fired heaters. We're expecting 400% increase by 2030. Think about this. 10 air conditioners are produced every second. 10 air conditioners, 10 air conditioners, 10 air conditioners. That's a lot of air conditioners. The American Innovation and Manufacturing Act, which was signed in 2020, is calling for the phase down of the current refrigerants that we use. And in some cases, there's not good replacements, and the industry is very concerned. Currently, we're at a 30% reduction in refrigerants that were produced only 2 years ago. And so if you have someone come out to service your air conditioner, you're likely to be paying $50 to $100 a pound for the refrigerant. Also, we believe that this will be an opportunity to create over $272 billion in new manufacturing related to new air conditioners, refrigerators, and refrigerants. And it's not just Kansas, it's not just the United States, it's the whole world. Because the Montreal Protocol requires that 170 countries will use new technologies and need new workforce to be able to use new refrigerants. It's also a broad industry concern. As the Chancellor mentioned, we have 28 companies actually ready to sign up and be a part of this research center. And just yesterday, we were talking to other companies like Walmart, Amazon, Microsoft, that are building data centers and concerned about the refrigerants that they use and making sure that they're sustainable. So Earth will address all of these immediate and long-term needs for new technologies and workforce for the HVACR industry. So think about an Earth-inspired future where a circular refrigerant economy with over 90% of refrigerants are actually recovered and recycled rather than being vented and incinerated. Environmentally safe refrigerants so that we don't have to go through another transition like we had to go from CFCs to HFCs and now to new substances. Less than 1% of HVAC systems that leak. And imagine this does not exist today. On your thermostat in your house, there is a little light that tells you as soon as your air conditioner starts to leak. Today, you probably have to lose 50% of the refrigerant in your air conditioner before you start to notice a difference. And we're going to completely change that. Air conditioners and heat pumps that are more energy efficient and use 30% electricity. This is the same kind of revolution that we went through when we went from incandescent light bulbs to LEDs. 150,000 new jobs in the HVACR industry, and a lot of those will be here in the state of Kansas. And this will be a $1 trillion industry by 2050, and it's a critical industry to the United States that we don't want to lose to foreign competition. This is what the ecosystem looks like right now. We have 6 core institutions. We have 2 national labs. We have original equipment manufacturers. Many of those you probably recognize, like Carrier, Trane, Rheem. We have the largest refrigerant producers in the United States. We have suppliers. We have material companies, component companies, refrigerant recyclers, the service industry, and also professional organizations. So the goals and measures of success. So this was a $26 million grant for 5 years. It's renewable for 10 years and $52 million. We plan to train over 150 PhD students and master's students, over 300 bachelor students. We'll have 100% job placement. We'll train over 3,000 HVACR technicians. We'll have programs K through 12 with over 100 teachers participating in this that will reach out to thousands of students in elementary schools. We will file at least 50 patents, have 20 issued, and 7 licensed. We plan to commercialize at least 5 technologies, and we'll have 5 startup companies, one of which is already operating, which is called Icorium Engineering Company at KU Innovation Park. And our goal is to have an original equipment manufacturer in the state of Kansas making air conditioners and refrigerators. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and attention.
Any question? How about a round of applause again? Well, congratulations and thanks for that important work.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And thank you for coming as well. President Hush, do you have any introductions? Yeah. All right, well, again, thanks everybody for being here and thanks for the introductions and welcome to all the new people, and we look forward to an exciting year. So in the chair report, I'll pledge to you, there won't be any singing as there used to be for the last couple of years. But hopefully we can, as the meeting starts, we can set a little context for what we're going to try to accomplish. And I'll try to do a few current events. I will say I may miss a few current events, but I think the right lean is to try to cover them and maybe miss one and not even try. So that's what we'll do today. So first meeting of the academic year here. In this meeting, we approve our unified budget request and our annual goals. So two very important things associated with our strategic plan, our plan of helping Kansas families, supporting Kansas business and advancing economic prosperity. And I think you'll see the things that are coming forward certainly are in line with our strategic plan and are strategic. So those processes began at our offsite back in July. We had a thorough review, I believe, a comprehensive set of discussions about what all we should contemplate. And then we've worked over the last couple of months to be positioned for today. So I won't anticipate anything that's going to happen in the meeting, but I do think we've done a lot of work to try to position ourselves well. Similarly for the goals, we had some of the same discussions. So that really takes me to current events. I think I'd point out three things. So first of all, a couple weeks back, my spouse and I attended the groundbreaking or the ribbon cutting, although technically it was a board sawing at Manhattan Tech, where they opened their Advanced Technology Center. When I spoke, I told them I thought about, am I supposed to be talking as a regent, as a donor, or a resident of Manhattan? And I said I thought those all aligned around a chance for people to grow and develop, meet their own unique potentials, and great things happen for the community. And certainly fits with our strategic plan. Over the weekend, I was at Coffeyville, Kansas, where we attended Skip Foster Appreciation Day, longtime coach at Coffeyville Community College. And his father was the coach before him. So between the two of them, they coached for 25 years. And I'll just quickly say lots of great things happening at Coffeyville. And then tomorrow we'll talk in more detail, but this is our inaugural recognition for the Regent faculty, which I think is a wonderful step, and we're excited to greet all those folks tomorrow. So we've got this specially designed that Blake's after me, because some of you have heard me say before, at BNSF, the 5 favorite words were what Carl meant to say. So he may do that here in just a moment. But again, thanks for being here.
Thank you. I will not be saying that. Jim Jeanette must be really popular because he and I wanted to say served on a panel for METAL, which is a group, the Manhattan, Emporia, Topeka, and Lawrence chambers are collaborating to assist us with our strategic priorities. And we had a discussion with that group, and we look forward to working with them as we look to advance higher education in the state. I think those chamber executives realize the importance of those institutions in their community. We've also continued work on the blueprint for literacy. We had a meeting yesterday of the advisory committee that's statutorily defined, and they're moving forward to set up a framework to begin identifying centers. That's going to be real important work as we move forward, and Regent Mendoza serves on that initiative as well. We've been selected by the Education Commission of the States to have a student-centered pathway be part of a policy academy. And I want to thank President Konechin at Cloud County Community College for serving on that team. And we'll be working to really look and determine how we can better serve students as they enter our system, and perhaps even while they're still in high school. So with that, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Blake. So, Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to point out this year we have auxiliary seating and standing room only. Inside joke, maybe. So Norman Phillips, Pittsburgh State, would you give us the Council of Faculty Senate President's report?
Like any good teacher, I prepped my stuff just as I was coming into the room again.
Well, thank you for being here with us.
Appreciate it. Let's see, let's go back up. I promise there is not 50 PowerPoint. So right off the bat, good afternoon, Chair Ice, President Flanders, and the other members of the Kansas Board of Regents. My name is Norman Phillip. I serve as a professor in the School of Construction at Pittsburgh State University. Yes, that does mean that Dan is my boss twice over. And I would like to say that I'm very honored to serve as the chair of the Council of Faculty Senate Presidents this year, considering I volunteered into it, even knowing what I was getting into. So I stand before you representing the faculty from all of our Regent universities across Kansas. We, those faculty, are committed to fostering academic excellence and shared governance as we work to advance the missions of all of our institutions. So real quick, a little bit about my background is I am a native Kansan. I'm a proud graduate of both the University of Kansas and, as of May, also Pittsburgh State University. So I've had the privilege of working at Pittsburgh State for the last 12 years, and prior to that, I taught as a graduate instructor at KU, in addition to also working in their design and construction management office there as well. Glutton for punishment, as you can see. So along with that, I also taught at a lot of non-traditional and at-risk students at both ITT Tech and Brown Mackey in the Kansas City area. And from that, I found that that's really enriched the perspective of the diverse needs of our students and both faculty alike. In addition with teaching, I'm also a licensed engineer in the state of Kansas and sit on the board of directors for the Kansas Society of Professional Engineers, working to further provide opportunities for our students in the state for our betterment of all. Back to the group. Before this meeting, the members of the Council of Faculty Senate Presidents have already met. We work to align our priorities and goals for the year. I'd like to take a moment to recognize those other members of the council that are here today, those from that could be here in person, K-State, Wichita State University, and Fort Hays State as well. Some of our other members, unfortunately, were not able to be here. Some have new children. Others are busy with nursing classes that they teach. So if we come in here, I always lose where I'm at. So with each of these groups, we found that we're finding great opportunity and representing our institution's faculty leadership, and every one of them brings with them a wealth of experience and insights diverse across our institutions. Together, again, we are committed to enhancing faculty engagement in key decisions across the state. In addition, we're continuing something that we started last year. We're working for the inclusion whenever possible for all of our faculty senate vice presidents and president-elects to be a part of our process, a part of our meetings, and to be involved. By involving them in all of this, we aim to foster greater continuity and leadership and ensure a broad representation of faculty voices from across the state. As chair of the council, I look forward to strengthening the collaboration between the faculty and the board with a strong commitment to shared governance. We believe that by integrating faculty input into institutional decisions, we can ensure the best outcomes for our students and universities alike. Together, I believe we can address the challenges ahead and continue to strengthen higher education in Kansas. I thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself and my colleagues, and I look forward to our discussions moving forward. Any questions? Yep. We'll continue on then.
Okay, we will turn to our, I'm sorry, excuse me, I lost my place. We'll hear from the Student Advisory Committee report, Hannah Eckstein.
Hello, hi everyone. So I just want to give a super brief report. So 2 weeks ago we had our retreat. Thank you, Chair Ice, for attending virtually. He shared some words of wisdom with us, talked to us about your guys' goals for the year, and really just got us excited to work with you all this year. I know we had some pretty awesome introductions earlier, but I do want to give the opportunity for all the students in the room to please stand. I've had such a joy already getting to work with all these students. So I wanted you guys to be able to see their faces. They'll be the ones running around talking to you each month. So thank you, everybody. These are the people to look out for. So at our meeting today, we started a little bit late, but we had a really great and spirited discussion. We started out with reports from all of the institutions. Some big focuses were, of course, voter registration, trying to get young people out to vote in this presidential election year, which I know is something that I'm personally very passionate about, and so are many of the student body presidents. Also talking about engaging with our campuses and making sure we are representing student needs across the board, not only within our individual senates, but as we speak with higher administration and with you all. We also started our discussion for goals of the year, and I cannot wait to get to present those to you at the November meeting and then in more detail in December when we have our breakfast with all of you. And overall, this is really just a great meeting. I know you've had the chance to meet a few of these students earlier today, but if you haven't, please, please, please reach out to them because they are just next level phenomenal people who truly care about their institutions in the state of Kansas, which is something that is really inspiring for me to see as a student myself. And overall, our message today is just that we look forward to working with you all throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward as well. So that takes us to our standing committee report. So we'll start with academic affairs. Chair Mendoza.
Thank you, Chair Ice. Basque met this morning with a brief agenda. We started our meeting by recognizing and welcoming some of this year's student government members as well as members of the faculty senates. We then went on to discuss this year's academic program review, which affects KU and K-State. It builds on last year's review, but adds additional data points for consideration. We considered several possible modifications to this year's review, such as counting students going on to graduate school within the talent pipeline metric. We also received updates from academic affairs staff on math pathways, specifically the professional development series to support faculty and staff in implementing math pathways. We also discussed moving forward with a first 15 dual concurrent enrollment pathway for high school students, similar to the one we have for Excel and CTE. Academic affairs staff will develop a work plan for the first 15 and present it at the next Basque meeting. So if there are no questions, that concludes my report.
Any questions? I know you have a full year ahead. Thanks for your leadership. All right. That takes us to fiscal affairs. Chair Benson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fiscal Affairs and Audit Committee held its first agenda call of the year on September 3rd. And then this morning, we had several campus and student representatives that joined us. We were glad to see that. We approved our committee work plan for the year, which will include a review of our internal audit policy and state support for the universities, as well as standing updates of system progress on the board's capital renewal initiative and the launch of the Campus Restoration Act. We heard today from David Vrandekar about his new role, bridging both the KU Medical Center and KU Lawrence. And while we'll miss him at fiscal affairs meetings, we appreciate David stepping into that new leadership role. And as introduced a little bit earlier today, we welcomed Aaron Mitchell, the new CFO for Wichita State, to the committee. We next reviewed those items on this month's board agenda related to fiscal affairs. We reviewed Wichita State's budget for property tax revenues and the capital projects on today's consent agenda. It was noted at the subheading on the top of page 86 should read summary of changes to the agreement between WSU AFT and the university. And the committee then approved all consent agenda items. The committee understands the business officer's request that the board table facilities policy changes on today's discussion agenda for another opportunity to discuss a few details with staff. I therefore, Mr. Chairman, make a motion to remove item 6.5 on today's discussion agenda under fiscal affairs and ask that the item be revisited at the board's November meeting.
Okay. So the motion came from committee, so I'm not sure that requires a second, but just in case, let's see if there's a second. Thank you, Regents. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of changing the agenda, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, all right, done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee also received an update on the state distributions that will be before us tomorrow for the Excel and CTE and other state programs. And as you can imagine, we spent most of our meeting discussing the board's unified appropriation request and the state budget process. Mr. Chairman, when we get to that item on the board's agenda, the Fiscal Affairs Committee does have a recommendation for the board to approve as our unified appropriation request. Fellow Regents, a new table is at your place that is in lieu of what is in the agenda on page 107, and additional copies are available for the audience here this afternoon. The new table is the culmination of our budget process in which proposals from across the system of 32 institutions and board office were gathered, and our discussion at the budget workshop of the $650 million worth of proposals that will emphasize student affordability and improve our system's ability to grow our state's economic prosperity. I again want to thank our campus colleagues for their advocacy. We've had a remarkable run of 3 years of improved state support, and I believe the budget fiscal affairs will be advancing would offer our elected officials a great opportunity to make even more meaningful impacts to our state moving forward. And finally, today, Director Bristow gave the committee a status update on the great deal of work that is underway on space inventory data collection, with many thanks for the board's data research and planning team noted, as well as financial and other data to be gathered on facilities in the coming weeks. And we will receive our next annual facilities report this December. With that, Mr. Chairman, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you again. And we'll look forward to the discussion. So the Government Committee also, as you would expect, met today. I just briefly, as a way of setting context again, we've continued this year the practice that we had last year and probably some other years in the past, but certainly last year, that the Governance Committee consists of chair, vice chair, and our 2 committee chairs. We think that puts us in the best position for board leadership to be engaging on topics that we should be considering, and overall just a good way to advance our board leadership. Today, we began by approving the execution of 3 contracts for our board president and CEO. One of our duties, which is described by the things that someone else doesn't do, that is, we review all policies that are not covered by another committee. So we reviewed a cyber and enterprise risk management policy. You'll have a chance to hear about that a little later. Also, you'll hear later from Councilor Yeary. We discussed the potential conflicts of interest and have a recommendation for you there as well. And then finally, we broke into executive session and discussed CEO compensation. Any questions? Okay, all right, thank you. So you all, as part of your packet, received a consent agenda. Both of our committees mentioned the things they would have considered or taken up as part of that, if it fall in line with their duties. So given all of that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I would so move.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair Benson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rolfe. So any discussion? All right, those that to approve the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the consent agenda carries. Moving along so rapidly, make sure I'm okay. That takes us to the discussion agenda. The first, I guess now 7 items are fiscal. So we'll ask Chair Benson to lead us through all that, and he'll call on help as he needs for those.
Would invite Vice President Frisbee to the podium while she's coming up there, just kind of set up the conversation. Just wanted to first of all thank everyone on their efforts to help us with the unified budget request. This process started, I'm sure, more than 6 months ago, but I think it started officially about 6 months ago when we asked the institutions as they were crafting their budget proposals and budget requests to only bring items to us that were a priority. I mean, priority A items. And they did that. We appreciate their work on that. So appreciate all the institutions, appreciate the work that President Flanders, Vice President Frisbee, and their team have done on this. Certainly you, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your efforts, and Vice Chair Rolfe, and certainly Regents Dicus and Winter, who also serve on fiscal affairs and audit, because a lot of work and a lot of time has already been spent on this. So thank you all. This is for those of you that maybe this is your first meeting. This is a thorough process. As I mentioned, it started in March. We received all of those requests at our offsite retreat, which was in July in Wichita. We spent almost 3 days going over all of these requests. I thought that it was very important, Mr. Chairman, that all of these requests see the light of day and have their day in court, and that the institutions had the opportunity to tell us why that it was so important to them. But when we left that offsite retreat, as mentioned earlier, the budget was around $650 million. So we knew that there was some work to do. And since then, the board has received a lot of feedback from all of you, feedback both verbally, written letters. And I want to assure you all today that not only was that feedback heard, every bit of it has been appreciated. I know maybe that doesn't feel like it if your budget request doesn't make it in the final version, or if it is on here at an amount that is different than what you requested. That doesn't at all mean that we didn't hear it or we didn't understand it. I would counter exactly the opposite. We heard every single one of you. We appreciate the context you provided. We appreciated the fact that you understood every angle that we should look at this from. Because you're the ones that are on the ground, and you're all effective advocates for your institutions, and that was greatly appreciated. Of course, it's our job as regents to take all of that information, all that feedback, put it in a proposed budget that is reasonable, that's responsible, that's strategic, and is reflective of the board's priorities. To include student affordability, student success. Glad to see so many of our student leaders here today. We need to let them know that is extremely important to us, but also helping ensure that our institutions keep pace in a highly competitive environment. And that's something that we've heard from our institutions, that you're not only competing for students, you're competing for faculty, you're competing for support staff, you're competing for research scientists. So we want to make sure that you have the resources to be competitive moving forward. So with that, Mr. Chair, if it pleases you, the way we'll tackle this is I'll ask Vice President Frisbee to maybe let us know what is maybe news since the board agenda was sent out, because it's something that shifts pretty often. So I'll ask Vice President Frisbee to tell us anything new we need to know. And then because we've gone through each one of these extensively, wouldn't envision that we would go down line by line. We would just essentially be ready to answer any questions that any of the regents may have regarding the individual request.
Okay.
So
that sounds like a great plan, but I would like to echo what you said. I know a tremendous amount of work has gone into this, and we appreciate everything you've done with that. As well as the work at the offsite, all those things you mentioned, and the input from everybody. So I think this has been well considered. So thank you.
Vice President Frisbee.
Thank you. So the table before you, Regents, and up on the screen and available in the room, we have 4 items for the current year, fiscal year 2025. These arise from very recent calculations for the 2-year colleges. We have 4 statutory programs through which we send state aid to the 2-year colleges, and we are short of state funding for those items. In 2 cases, we actually have no funding available for them, and in 2 cases, we're just short. Those total $467,000. The Post-Secondary Technical Education Authority met yesterday, and they do ask that the board consider including those in the Unified Appropriations request for the governor and legislature to consider. So that is a new item, very late breaking. Also, in addition, we've got our first item. Now, these are lettered down the left side of the page just for identification purposes. So letter A, the very first item for fiscal year 2026, is identified as the KBOR focus on student affordability. And that makes up roughly 1/3 of the total of the $273 million. So this would be of benefiting our public university students to ensure that they've got opportunities to attend college university. Where there are items noted in the table that are continuance of items that the legislature has previously appropriated, you'll notice the word in bold, either continue or restart previous support. So trying to highlight that several of these items are not new. These have been around, but were removed from our base, so we have to ask for them back, just to make that clear. I think otherwise, there have been withdrawals of several items, so they are just simply not on this page anymore. So this is the simplified table, the clean table of what Fiscal Affairs is recommending for the board to consider adopting.
Okay, thank you. So again, a great review of all of this. Any questions or comments? Okay, well, hearing none, I believe you said the fiscal is recommending, so we have our motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
And in that second, I'm just gonna pontificate for just 1 second. I just want to thank all the players for doing their part, helping us get this down and being responsible with the state budget and prioritizing with us. So thank you guys very much for doing that. A lot of hard work. And I'm grateful. So second.
All right, thank you for that expansive second. So before I call the motion, any other comments? Okay, well, and I guess I would amplify both of what just got said there, and that is that we appreciate everything everybody's done. I think this has been thoughtfully considered as we advance our strategic plan, at the same time fulfilling our fiscal responsibilities. Okay, so all in favor of approving the unified budget request, signify by saying aye, please. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have our request. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so Vice President Frisbee, if you will, given that, as Chair I said, the next 6 items are all under fiscal affairs as well, I would just ask you to maybe walk through those, please.
Happy to talk a bit about the next item. This is referencing information at the bottom of page 107 and the top of page 108. This is a request from the University of Kansas for authority to align their scholarship for out-of-state students, for transfer students, to align their system with incoming freshmen and the Midwest Student Exchange Program. So you'll see the tables there at the top of page 108. This is intended to make KU more competitive for transfer students who might come in from other states. They are requesting this change now in advance of preparing their marketing materials and making that available to recruit students for fall of 2025.
Any questions?
There are no questions, Mr. Chair. I would move for approval.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there a second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor, aye, please. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have the revised scholarship program. Thank you, Vice President Frisbee. So I
Were you going to speak to the next item?
think we were going to call Director Woodworth for that.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about the KU master plan, right?
Okay.
I'm sorry, Medical Center master plan. Excuse me for that momentary bobble.
I'm assuming someone's pulling up the slides.
Okay, excellent. Smile cheerfully while we're waiting. You know,
Right.
We'll all do that. So thanks for coming today.
No problem, guys. Get to show you our awesome cancer center. That's what we get to do.
Well, that's an important thing.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah. Do what? Yeah.
Yeah, a really big set of presentations. Got a bunch of video or?
Waiting on this thing to warm up, apparently.
Yeah.
Right.
There we
Oh,
go.
that's KU.
Okay, that's we're not there. Talking about icing the shooter, right? So.
I'll just get up
Oh,
here. and
3
stand
timeouts
and
before
look
you got to
and
try
look cool.
to shoot the foul shot here. Okay.
I have all the slides memorized, you know.
Well, if you
I
want to
could
start,
just
that's
talk right
fine.
now.
Go ahead. Hey, you've got the floor. I've long believed if you get the mic, you get a chance to say what you think you should. So if you're ready, oh,
There we go, guys.
All right.
All right. Well, this is a medical center master plan. And what I do here at the medical center is I oversee our design and construction and also our master plan. Something I just want to highlight on here is we several years ago brought this internal. So I actually update these slides myself, meeting with executive leadership on our campus. So we'll go ahead and go next page. That's contents, of course. Listing conditions I'm going to cover, and I did this several months ago, but there's a few revised slides, I will say. So we'll just go through existing conditions. So this gives just an overall holistic picture of our campus downtown, quite massive. So we are 42 buildings and then several parking structures that you can see here. This dashed outline provides more context of different lots or land that we actually own, the medical center. So next slide. And then building land ownership. So anybody that's been to our campus, it can become quite confusing and think we and the health system are the same entity. We are, in fact, not, of course, as you guys well know. So everything here in blue is actually the health system's property. Everything in white is university buildings, I should say. Green is university property. And then that light blue just down at the bottom right is the health system's property. We have a master ground lease that a large majority of their property is on ours, or buildings are on our property. So next slide. And feel free to stop me, guys, if you have any questions. So this is our deferred maintenance. So much appreciated the continued effort for deferred maintenance and funding support for our campus every year. What this does is we had an assessment done throughout all of our buildings to determine the facility's condition index. And essentially what this shows is everything in red is in a very, I would say, tragic state. It needs to be raised or it needs drastic updates per se. So everything in purple, closer to that A, B, and C are actually in pretty good condition on this page. So what this does is it starts to give greater context to our future master plan. And you're going to see on these slides, we have some of these buildings slated to be raised. So go ahead. And this highlights a couple large deferred maintenance projects we just did. So we have a central power plant on campus. This is Applegate Energy Center. The big takeaway of this is we replaced 3 boilers in this building. And the boilers, of course, supply heating hot water to our campus, or steam rather, and then heating hot water so we can heat our campus. This is $11.7 million project. Another thing, a long time ago, back in the 70s when they built this thing, it was an old curtain wall. So they put glass everywhere on a power plant, which makes no sense. But it was rusting, about to fall apart, fall down. So this is a picture of what we went back with. You know, we tried to fit in with more contemporary nature on our campus, but also, you know, it's a power plant. We don't have to go crazy. So we did some metal panel system, metal corrugated panel, and some glass for more longevity of the facade. So the big takeaway here, this is like a D or F, considered FCI. We're now in like the C range and making well on our effort and our way to upgrade the infrastructure on our campus, because that's what we're prioritizing with deferred maintenance funds. Because obviously at the end of the day, we need to have this campus up and running infrastructure wise. Okay, and then this is a highlight, really cool project, the Taylor demolition. So this is right next to the bridge of our health education building. If you guys been in Kansas City and seen our new HEB building, but this building was right next to the bridge. So I constantly was worried that a piece of brick would fall off, you know, go shooting right through the bridge and hit some student. And thankfully it was basically just a claw that we took, and we took all this apart, basically piece by piece. And then brought it down. The most challenging thing on here is we had a valve to a domestic cold water line that we couldn't get to close. Actually, I should say hot water line. So we actually had to cut it live and then cap it. So we had water, you know, shooting out like crazy, and we slapped the cap right on the end. But that was probably the most concerning part of this project. So, but you can see it's just really cool, the footings and isolated footings down there in the bottom right. And then one fun fact for this was $1 million, and it actually made us avoid $4.1 million of rehab over the next 10 years in this building.
That is great. Say that again.
Yeah, it's amazing, you know, the amount of money we can save by raising buildings.
4-to-1 leverage then.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep. All right, next slide. Yep, this is the putback. So we have very nice green space here. You know, we can have events out here. It overlooks both from our educational facilities right here. So next slide. All right, this gets into our future master planning. And so 2024 to 2025. So this, what I have shown here in red is the Olathe building being demolished. It's a 3-story building with a basement. Presently, we're partially moved out. Actually planning on drafting a letter to actually get this slated to actually get this demolished. So we got to start the design process. And then there will be a brand new entry to campus right here, because this is a main thoroughfare of the campus. But a large majority, we had inpatient psych that's already moved out. The health system was occupying this space. One minor change I would make to this slide as we're talking, I sent an updated one to Chad. I just don't think it got thrown in here. The Hoagland building, we will also be demolishing this here. So if you can point with your pointer between P5 and RSF, are you able to do that? Yep, just down to the left. There you go. So that building is where the clinical building is actually sitting for the cancer center. I'm going to show you here in a moment, but that is to be demolished as well. The full intention to demolish that here in January of this next year. So next slide, please. All right. So 2025 to 2040, big updates here is the new cancer center. And this is showing the research portion of it in the slide deck. We'll get into the clinical portion as well. So that's between P4 and P5. We are showing a need for a new parking garage. Parking is very precious on our campus, and we never have enough of it. And with this new cancer center, we expect patient load on our campus. We will need new parking, or more densified parking is what I should say. Other new structures we are planning is a brain health facility. So that's right off of Rainbow Boulevard. We're in very early talks about site location, where that's going. But the 2 leading research areas for our campus is dementia, Alzheimer's research, which is obviously brain health, and cancer research. So you see us expanding research-wise. Educationally, not planning on expansion. We're actually satisfied with our enrollment. We're fully enrolled every single year. And then down to the top right, I should say, that's the north end of our campus, is what we're planning as a biorepository. So this is a blood bank facility and a cellular processing facility. So with us building a new brain health cancer, this is basically a blood bank and tissue collection storage facility. So and then other buildings so that are shown in red here. If you flip back to the deferred maintenance page, we don't need to right now, but those are all in that orange and red category is the intent. So
those should correlate. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. The one thing I will say here is the RSF and Bridenthal, we're actually able, and I should say primarily RSF, able to get out of that building because of what we are doing with the cancer center. We're building a new vivarium and renovating an existing vivarium in Hemingway to actually get out of a very aging facility that is very energy intensive. So, all right, next slide. All right, so awesome picture of the cancer center to come here. So we are actually breaking ground here just this next month. So it'll be on October 21st. Shown here on the leftmost side is the research tower. And then could you point to that for me, please? Yep, nope, the white building. Yep. So on the left side there, that's the research tower. And then on the right side, that's actually the clinical tower. So research and clinical care for cancer is very important to actually co-locate that. We don't have that on campus. Our research is spread out. Our clinical is spread out. So the big mission and vision behind this is to centralize and create a comprehensive cancer center with both research and clinical care there, bouncing ideas off each other in collaboration. That bridge between the two buildings is actually going to be the driver of the collaboration, because we see physicians going over the research going over the clinician work, because they have cross functionality, as well as meeting space, break space there in the center. So next slide, please. All right, so this starts to get into the actual site plan logistics. So as you see the clinical part right there, it's kind of a, a little bit of a rectangle there. That is actually sitting where the Hoagland building is now today. So the most important thing about this is we obviously got to get Hoagland out of the way. So that's one of the enabling parts of this. And then the research tower is actually connected into Hemingway. The big driver there is we have research that collaborates with our cancer center team. So we're actually making a connection into Hemingway so research can move back and forth and create that cross collaboration between the two buildings as well as the clinic here. So next slide, please. This starts to get into vertical stacking. So what I'm going to really focus is on this left side. We're not here really to talk about the clinical part of this today. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to. But the vivarium is down there at the bottom. So that's all about lab animals and basically research for our whole entire campus. It serves cancer as well as the rest of our different research modalities. And then we are currently showing basically wet research up above that. So think like science labs, tissue culture spaces, wet benches. And then at the very top, we have a GMP facility. So what's fascinating is learning all the new and groundbreaking ways of treating cancer. And so we're actually treating more on a cellular basis rather than radiation. And this facility is actually to create cells to actually inject into patients to actually treat at a cellular and gene level for therapy over at the clinical side, where they will be treated in the apheresis unit. So next slide. All right. And this is a picture from the south side looking at the building. So right here, what I have shown on the future master plan is RSF and Bridenthal to go away. So this is what this end product would look like right here. So the really big vision here is to make it look like one cancer center. Yes, we're two entities, but we're a comprehensive center. So, and I think we do that architecturally here. So, all right, next slide. Okay. And then 2040, I would say our biggest expansion is a potential new treatment center, cancer treatment center to the north of the cancer center we're planning right now. And then we show future potential expansion areas, and that could be, land that the health system expands on. We're pretty satisfied with where we're growing research-wise. So just showing potential options here, but it's so far out in the future, it's kind of unknown right now. So next slide, please. Okay. And this is our 2023 to 2026 Wichita campus plan. And Rick over here has definitely shared some plans here before, but this is a collaboration between Wichita State, Wichita Tech, and KU Medical Center. So specifically our School of Medicine, our School of Pharmacy. So next slide, please. So I showed this the last time, but this shows our vertical stacking in the building. KU specifically is in the blue here, and Wichita State and Tech is in the yellow. And then we actually share some space that's more simulation based you really use dollars best here, because that simulation space, it simulates like an exam room, an OR room. So it's best to share that stuff. So next slide. So, and this gives a really nice perspective of what this is shaping up to look like on the northwest corner. And you see the clinic down here at the bottom and main entry to the building. And then on top of it, you see the tower stacking. We're partway through construction right now. We have a whole bunch of excavation done on site. We're working through the deep footings and foundations right now. So fully expecting to be complete in 2026 with move-in of spring of 2027 for this project. And then for the Cancer Center, we're expecting to be done at the end of 2027 for the Cancer Center, and then the Hemingway renovation be done at end of 2028. So next slide. All right. Any questions?
Questions? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the detail.
Yeah.
really gives a clear vision, I think, to the board of where you want to go and how you're gonna really, it looks like all of the facilities are following the mission and vision, which is sometimes we're trying to do it the opposite, plug it in, so that's really great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Please.
In terms of different, by the way, excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Very excited about the outcome and opportunity and groundbreaking research for cancer. On the building deferred maintenance, what is the asset management tools or software you're using to understand, are we going in the right direction? What are the ways that we can measure?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question because we're implementing that software right now.
Okay, good.
We did the asset inventory with Accruent, right? So that they came through and they walked through all of our facilities. They looked at all of our components, gave us a rating. But that doesn't help us when it comes to taking care of the assets,
Yeah.
and that's where you're coming from, probably.
Yes.
So we currently use eMay, and I'm actually looking at getting us transitioned over to Famous 360 is the software platform. And the reason why we're looking at doing that is space management we currently have in Famous 360. And what I would like to do is as we're making smart space decisions, it also needs to be informed by our assets, the current status of them. We can't be moving people into space where the assets aren't really adequate. But then at the same time, what we can do in the software, so we'll map where all the assets are because we haven't mapped them yet because there's hundreds of thousands all over our campus, is to track all the O&Ms, so the warranties for it, and then also all the preventative maintenance we are doing to this asset. So that way, and we have it on a schedule, so that way we're taking proper care of it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Other comments? Yes, sir.
I would just join in and say excellent preparation for this and excellent presentation. More importantly, excellent future ahead of us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So you break ground next month? Is that right on the cancer center?
Yeah, we'll be first starting with a fire lane. So with the new building, we're covering up the existing fire lane behind Hemingway. So we first got to get that reworked. And then in February is when we're going to start deep utilities. And when I say deep utilities, it's 40-foot deep in the ground. We're going to be excavating to replace storm and sanitary lines. So it's going to be pretty cool.
When would the expected ribbon cutting be? Yes.
What I'm shooting for is right around March is what I'm thinking. So we'll get through the Hoagland demolition.
That'd be groundbreaking.
Do what?
Ribbon.
Oh, I thought you were saying kind of like a shovel like groundbreaking, but yeah, completion for the project, that would be end of 2027. Sorry.
Is there, I'm trying to remember, are there ARPA dollars attached to that project? Does this have to be spent by 26? No? Okay, that's in the Wichita Center. Okay. It's beautiful. I know that took a lot of collaboration between the health center and KU Med and to figure out, and I think it turned out really well.
There's some federal dollars there through CDSs that do need to get,
Yep.
to your point, expended first.
Okay. Yep, appreciate that very much. It's a really compelling vision for health when you look at both Kansas City and Wichita and that and where we're going. Great investment by the state, and I think we'll make everybody proud.
I was holding some of my comments because I didn't think I should anticipate the board, but it looks like momentum is strongly towards approval. So I mean, again, I'd share the comments about the plan and the collaboration and everything that you've laid out. And then again, the Cancer Center and the impact that has for our state and our region is almost beyond comprehension. So
Absolutely.
thank you for all those things.
I'd move to approve.
All
the
right,
new updated
thank you
master
for that motion. That's what I thought you were going to do a minute ago. Yes, Gwen.
Second.
I'm sorry, Regent Winter. All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, yeah, you have
Perfect.
approved plan. Thank you for doing it.
Yep.
All right, so this seems like a wonderful moment to stop for a break. So let's take a 15-minute break and be back about 20 till. Thank you.
right time.
Notice me. Becky,
No, not at all.
could withhold my speeches.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Oh, you didn't hear my. I spared you the whole time.
Yes, good question. Yes. Yeah. 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 We did, yeah, we did. Yes, there were no.
All right.
Matt, how are you? How are you doing? I'm good. If, do you have like a? But, I would have done this over the last 2 years. If Rotary is Kiwanis in Pittsburgh. Have some kind of stock slide deck that just talks a little bit about student success, things that the non-education community.
No,
may not
I
know.
just was.
Yeah, I'm just saying that link gets
appointed time. We are ready for the University of Kansas Master Plan. Okay, there's Provost McMyer.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Great, thank you.
Thanks for
very much.
joining us.
Night. Am I able to, oh, I am clearly able to drive this myself. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the 2024 Campus Master Plan for the KU Lawrence campus. Just to remind you a little bit, I did appreciate the opportunity a few months ago to give just a brief overview of this presentation. We are unique in the country, as we understand, from our partner in master planning, Perkins and Will, and from the Society of College and University Planners, in that we have designed a master plan that really is actually focused to achieving a mission and some key goals, but actually shrinking a footprint of a campus. We had an opportunity over the summer to go to Philadelphia and receive the Award for Excellence in Campus Master Planning by the Society for College and University Planners for that reason, and that it's a data-informed plan. So I'll share a little bit of the details about that with you. Our aspiration with our Campus Master Plan and for the next 10 years is to become a resilient institution that is sustainable for the benefit of future generations, guided by our strategic plan for the campus. You will see me discuss a little bit about what some of our key focus areas are as we are moving forward. So first of all, just to discuss a little bit about our strategic plan and the impact. We are moving from a history of, in our first 50 years or so, building a campus on a hill to going from that point to actually really kind of focusing on the boulevard and building out the boulevard. And then as we became a comprehensive state university from 29 to 57, we had a plan that was focused on making sure we had the facilities we needed for research and for comprehensive educational programs. And then really between 57 and now, there was just a growth era, as we talked about, and that growth was not necessarily as strategic or as focused on the mission as we would like it or have liked it to be. Over time, what's been the result of that is that you see on this chart that we've had a history of growing our total square feet on campus, and you see also on this slide a trend line of total enrollment. That I do want to note on this trend line, it ends at 2020. We have in the last 4 years had an interesting phenomenon in our post-COVID recovery, or our, I don't know if you can call it post-COVID, but our recovery since that time, that we actually have had 3 of our 4 largest first-time full-time freshman classes in history. So actually that line is, we are trending more towards the 30,000 now in total enrollment. We also know a demographic cliff is coming. We don't know what that means for us. So we're in this very interesting period of trying to use our space as expeditiously as possible, trying to determine what we can maintain of our enrollments at this point in time, and trying to cover many eventualities as we move forward. So the point of that is our gap isn't what it was even a couple of years ago, but that doesn't mean we still don't have all the challenges that we had before.
Aren't you missing 2 national championships on that, the 20s?
Yes, we are. And by the way, there is an enrollment bump that comes with national championships. I'm the rare provost who gets to look at that data and know
love that
that
you
that is
put it.
true.
I thought you meant the debate trophies when you said 2 more, but
There you go.
so I'm sorry, I'm confused. So I thought you said the campus was getting smaller, but
No, this is our trend line up to 2020. So stay tuned. In the next 10 years, we'll show you what we're going to be doing. So,
okay.
so that is the sprawl that I talked about between really the late 60s and 2020 that
Happy
that
to
we've
have
grown.
set you up. So.
Yeah, thank you. So we are building a strategic plan or a campus master plan that is around our strategic plan, which is to be an exceptional learning community that lifts each other and advances society. The important thing about that is exceptional learning community means we talk a lot about Lawrence as a research residential enterprise. that the most important thing that we do is build a community that's active, it's involved, it's engaged, and that people have a reason why they climb up the hill every day, and that people have a reason to come onto campus. And so engagement is kind of the watchword of our campus master plan as we move forward. And of course, that plan has to support our tripartite mission of student success and research and discovery and being a healthy and vibrant community. Just to talk a little bit about the impact that and how we're framing that impact, it's not only our strategic plan that informs that, it's thinking about the future of KU, but it's also thinking about research themes that we have. And there are 5 areas of focus that we have been working on over the last 5 years and really in COVID recovery and beyond, that we know that we're exceptional in. You've heard from Mark Shiflett. Mark is one of many faculty we have who are working in the space of earth energy environment. We are also internationally known for our work and development across the lifespan, whether that's Alzheimer's or that's speech and hearing pathologies, whether that's special education programs, et cetera. We're also incredibly strong in safety and security and national security work that we do there, particularly in cybersecurity. Of course, we're strong in pharmacy and in the School of Medicine and in our health sciences connections. And then and the human experience in the digital age, where we study how humans are adapting to technology and how technology is changing the way that humans live and play and work. And the trick with that, when you think about facilities, is that our faculty are really spread all over in campus, not necessarily in the most ideal ways to create the most collaborative research spaces. And so that's one of the aspects of what we would hope to do with our master plan as well. This gives an example of that. These are those 5 areas again, and you see the various centers and institutes and faculty research groups who are working in those areas, and you see some of the cross paths. One of the things that we hope to do with our campus master plan and what will probably be the great move and shift is to get people together where they need so that they can best work in collaborative lab spaces and with core technologies and to be able to get synergy from each other's ideas. Also informing that plan is this sense of, you know, what I call the chaos line. That gives you a sense of where those facilities are, where those faculty are working, and how they're trying to connect. And if we can bring some organization to that chaos as we create our future campus facilities and structure, we hope to bring some more reason to that. That gets to the part of what's also informing us as we think about our campus master plan moving forward and better using our facilities. There's really 4 key focus areas that came out of a number of focus groups that we ran with Perkins and Will over the course of really about a 2-year process. And one of the things that we learned back at that point about the campus experience is that people, particularly post-COVID, need to remember why they are on campus together. They need to interact with each other. A lecture is not the way that students want to learn. When they come to campus, they can get a lecture through YouTube, and it doesn't mean they have to walk up a hill. They can see it whenever they want to see it. They can pause and rewind. We have to be engaging in the campus experience that we provide for our students and for our faculty and staff. We also know that as time has gone on, there were many concerns that came up in our focus groups around campus safety. And by that, I mean just bushes and shrubbery and places on campus that are dark at night, that people don't feel particularly safe as they're walking up and down Jayhawk Boulevard around campus. And so there's a fair amount in our campus master plan that's also about landscaping and sustainability as well. And then, of course, we all understand the challenges that we face with facilities and making sure that our facilities are used to their best and highest purposes, that they are modernized. Again, classroom spaces are key on that. Large lecture halls are not what we need in this time and in the future. We need much more flexible learning spaces where people can gather around large computers and to be able to work together and problem solve in very interactive ways. And then, of course, KU is somewhat unique in the fact that we have mobility challenges on our campus. We are on a hill. If you ever lugged a 20-pound computer up a hill and back down, you know that is not an easy climb. There isn't parking on top of the hill for people. There's ADA accessibility issues for people. There aren't easy lifts or elevators to get up the hill for folks. So we do have some unique challenges related to mobility on our campus that we know that we need to address. In that regard, basically, again, we went through about 18 months of planning. We had 5,000 people participate. We had focus groups. We listened, we co-created, and then we synthesized all that to come up with a strategic plan that focused on impact and engagement and stewardship. So let's talk a little bit about what that means in an era where we simply cannot afford to build many new buildings, and that we have to actually think about good stewardship of facilities and reducing our footprint. First of all, as I said to you before, and I think you've heard in other conversations we've had, we're aware that we have about 940,000 assignable square feet of space that's beyond what we think that we need at this point in time. And as I think Regent Ice, it was, if I was hearing from the back of the room right, it was you who said there's a fourfold return on the investment of taking something down if you can do that. That's important for us because we do have roughly $750 million in deferred maintenance in our buildings, and we need to do so many other things to support our faculty and staff and our students. We do have old buildings. In those old buildings is out-of-date furniture, out-of-date equipment, out-of-date facilities that we need to address. There are campus amenities that our students are asking for. There's technology needs that we have to address. And of course, we need to use our green space well. So when you think about what that looks like for us, our goal is to be data informed in making decisions. And one of the things that we've done that was one of the reasons why we were selected from that from the Society of College and University Planners for the Award of Excellence is because we have worked quite diligently over the last year, particularly with the leadership of Callie Long and Mark Reisky and our facilities folks, to design dashboards that bring our data together to inform and give every building not only an FCI rating, but to think about where do we prioritize them in terms of what we need to do in terms of using those buildings as we move forward, and what do we need to be looking at. So on this sheet, I want to spend a little time on this slide emphasizing that what we are doing is not only rating the facility in terms of its condition, we're also thinking about a larger question of performance. We're thinking about accessibility. We're thinking about the possibility to adapt that facility to our needs and our strategic plan. So you see here some of the key indicators that we're working on as we move forward and as we're prioritizing which buildings do we work on repairing first and for what purposes against our missions of student success and research and good staff and faculty working spaces. So we've got everything rated in an interactive dashboard that is accessible to the key leaders and to our facilities group in terms of working through those buildings. And it's dynamic and it changes as the data that feeds it changes. Along with that, there are 3 levels to using that data. And the first is to think about what we need to do and invest in to actually address the natural system, which is Mount Oread and the hill that we sit on, and to create a sustainable landscape and a framework there. If you're not familiar, I might have said this to you before, it's interesting to note that stone is breathing and that climate change impacts stone and stone sweats. And when it gets hotter on top of a hill, mortar and tucking become ever so much more important, or stones can actually just fall off the side of a building, particularly 120-year-old buildings. So making sure that we have the best sustainable landscape and environment around us that reduces the heat on the hill actually helps to maintain the presence of our buildings, but also the functionality, and reduces the cost of supporting those buildings. While we're looking at that, we're looking at connectivity. Again, if you've been on Lawrence, you know we have distinct districts, and it is difficult to connect those districts because we're on a hill. So working on creating infrastructure that allows us to have a more dynamic flow to the hill and for people to move across the hill much more fluidly, and then to do all of that with a good implementation toolkit and great data for our built environment. So I won't belabor the Greenway too much, but we do need to make some investments in providing the kind of space that allows the built environment to be as best supported as it can be, so we have the greatest longevity of the buildings that we've got there. In terms of inclusive and welcoming campus, that way to create engagement that brings people to campus and makes them want to be on campus. One of the things that we're thinking about, which is really kind of a minimal cost, but is inviting to people, is to reviving Jayhawk Boulevard particularly and create some spaces around our facilities, such as a pavilion in front of Wesco, a beach, to take the beach and to actually put a little more shade there. There's not a lot of trees that give cover on Jayhawk Boulevard, and our students want to be present there and they want to have reasons to hang out there between classes. And so to do some work there would be helpful. And then in front of Watson to build a kind of quad, which is a gathering space that we don't really have at this point in time. So that's creating those social spaces that allow for that engagement to occur over time. And then most importantly, to talk a little bit about the implementation toolkit. How are we going to make the decisions we're making? We talked about the fact that we were recognized for creating a master plan dashboard that's based on data. And this builds on some of the work that KBOR's already done and that we appreciate around thinking about how we use data to inform decision-making. Part of the issue with that is to organize the data, because in order to make the best decisions about facilities, particularly classroom space, you have to have the data all accessible coming together. So you have to know what's the schedule of that classroom, how many students are in that classroom, when can you maintain that classroom, when can you take that classroom offline. You have to do the same for your research space utilization as well as for the gathering spaces you have. So to organize all the data, the people data, the cost data, and the facilities data together is kind of a robust activity. And then to be able to get real-time processing of that data so that you can generate reports that will help you make the decisions you need to make. And to break that down a little bit, this is the overall structure behind our campus master plan dashboard. But to break that down into learning environments, particularly in the second section or where it says policy recommendations, our goals with our campus master plan are to around learning environments, and those are classroom spaces and lab spaces particularly, to be much more central in our management of those spaces, to facilitate better use of those spaces in an era where we have more hybrid learning. And again, what I mean by that is when students are on campus, they have to be engaged in campus. And when they're in the classroom, they don't need to be lectured to in the same way. They need interactive laboratory and innovative experiences. We need to be able to be more flexible with our classrooms. We need less lecture style classrooms than we have, which were the coin of the realm when we built many of the buildings that we have today. And then finally, to be able to maximize all that space before we think about building anything particularly new. For research space, again, I'll kind of focus on the middle and the policy recommendations there that came out of our master plan. Again, centralized management of research space to make sure that that space is allocated according to what the real needs of our researchers are, whether that's the kind of fume hood they need, or whether it's access to a core equipment of some kind, or to be around other researchers who are doing similar work, and to allocate research space based on the amount of time that's needed and the amount of effort that goes into a faculty member's research work. And then to take back vacant and underutilized space, particularly spaces that we have over time moved outside of the campus footprint into Lawrence and taken advantage of previously, and to try to bring as much possible back onto campus as we can as we move forward. And then again, to maximize all that space before we think about what do we need to build new to the best that we can. The impacts on that, not only in terms of reduction, can actually help facilitate collaboration. They can reduce our energy spend. That's cost savings. They can create more efficiency and actually create more time savings for faculty and staff who are utilizing those spaces. And then finally, workspace. And when we're talking about workspace, we're talking about people's offices. Again, COVID taught us that there are opportunities and benefits from hybrid spaces and hybrid workplaces. There's benefits in hoteling. There's opportunities to be more engaged if everybody doesn't have their own office with a door that they go and they close themselves into. But again, to do that work, we have to centrally manage it. We have to have standards for office space. We have to have shared workspaces that we haven't really designed before. And we have to think about how we support faculty who continue to be active, but may no longer be full-time employees, such as our emeritus faculty who do great work. And again, we expect to have the same kind of impacts there when we do that work. And so finally, what that dashboard looks like when you put it all together is, and this is actually a screenshot from the Tableau and the visual that guides us as we look at our data. We have existing space reports so we can see what's going on We have a building scorecard so that we know how the various facilities that people are using, what the conditions are, and what the measures are that matter to us to create a better space. And then how do we assess space to create a priority of, if we have this many dollars from these many sources, which are the things that we need to address first? And I will also say that not only while we built the dashboard, we built processes, and we're working through creating governance structures to make sure that there's good sounding board, that there's a true full vetting of all of that data as we make decisions to inform us as we move forward. Yes, sir. Yep. I'm not going to give you the exact right answer on that, because it is somewhat fluid, and that is the great, well, I'll say this about having this. Number one, we've put together the dashboard. We're validating the data right now to make sure that all those various data sources are coming together from the data lake to feed this. Secondly, part of validation is to make sure that our numbers really are right about how much opportunity we have to reduce footprint and to look at net. But in terms of the net assignable square foot on classroom, some of that really is dependent on what kind of classroom it is. And that's where some of our challenges, because we have work to do. We have some classrooms that aren't well utilized right now because they just don't have the structure in the classroom that we need. So some of it is not simply that it's not assigned. Some of it is just not the right space for the building that it's in with the kind of program that lives there. Right.
So you're pretty granular on some of that changing space, but on the shrinking, what's the timeline to getting more granular with where we're going to shrink? And what's the plan then? What are your thoughts on like community engagement? How do you think about that and as you move forward?
Can I ask you to follow up a little bit more in terms of the community engagement, in terms of how we bring people into that conversation? Is that what you mean by
Yeah,
community engagement?
so yeah, and then what's the plan to become more, what's the timeline to be more granular on kind of, right now we're saying we're needing to shrink, but we really haven't identified any space yet.
Actually, we have in some ways. And that's where we have good data. We actually have the starting of a scorecard to look at that data, but the challenge with shrinking is moving people out and where you put them in the interim while you're moving them out and bringing them in. So in a lot of ways, I'm trying to think of the puzzle games where you move all the pieces, and you're trying to shift so that you have something going on. So we know, again, for example, some things that have really low FCI scores that are outside of the campus footprint that we're trying to figure out how we take offline relatively soon. But we've got to get people out of there into good spaces so that we don't have to double or triple move them. And so then we have to invest in the good space, creating a good space for them on campus. So we do have some of that. And we could happily come back to you at some point in time and tell you what that looks like. But we've started to create those structures. Behind those structures in terms of the process and how complicated this is, we've got to communicate to people about what's happening to them. And we've also got to govern that. And make sure that those decisions that we make about facilities actually line up to, for example, plans for what Mark Shiflett's going to need, just to give an example, as we grow there, and how we do those shifts. So that's why these three pieces are kind of important to look at collectively. We know how our space is being utilized right now. That's existing space report. We know the scorecard. We know the buildings that really need to go offline now or in the very near future, because if they have a failure, we're not really going to be able to afford to bring them back online, and we don't want people's research to be jeopardized there. And then it's the assessing space to figure out, okay, what's the next move for them and where do we put them that we're trying to wrestle with. So we've got data in all those areas. It's the assessment and it's the decision about where to move people. So we have actively already done some of that work. In fact, I'm sharing with you that we're really not building very many new buildings over the course of the next 10 years on the Lawrence campus. And I'm mindful that I'm saying that to you while we have a request for some matching funds for the School of Architecture and Design. And that's one good example. There is a new building that's part of that work. There are 7 spaces on campus where architecture and design is. They have had 3 specialized accreditor reports over 20 years that say they don't have enough space, they don't have adequate space, and they're way too dispersed on campus. And in some ways, that shift is one of the key pieces that when we get that moved, that starts freeing up other space all around campus so we can move other people into those spaces and reduce those pieces. So long story short, some of it is get out of our off-campus spaces as quickly as we can. Do that based on the places that have the lowest FCI scores as quickly as we can, figure out where we're putting them and create some holding spaces where we can be shuffling people around as we need to. But we've been doing that, for example, just recently with Lindley Hall and HVAC work and some repair that we've needed to do there, shifting people around. We've been doing that and kind of playing a shift people around in Malat Hall, which has housed a lot of research for us. And we're doing that with some of our administrative work in terms of our HR organization, et cetera. So it's already
So
ongoing.
you've identified the spaces. Now it's about swing space, and I'm not being rude, but I was so excited with your presentation. I knocked my water over. So
Oh.
I'm gonna go get a little bit of a towel.
I'm sorry. Well, you're probably leaving at just the perfect time because I am going to talk about, just briefly some of those things that we are going to do. But I know you've heard and seen this before. So just really quickly on the 10-year master plan and what that means in terms of beautiful visuals that we're working towards. So first of all, that public realm and that landscape, you've already heard a lot about the Gateway Project. The Gateway Project will revitalize so much of the older corridor and of some of the, not only to create a great football stadium and a conferencing center, but that gives us opportunities to rethink how we use the Union and how you kind of look up the hill from there, and how we re-envision, what Jayhawk Boulevard is and how it feeds in to the Gateway Project, how we use campus streets and how we use edging and landscape and upgrades to make it a beautiful place that people want to be. Then building resets, I just mentioned this. There are some buildings that are very important to us on campus that house a lot of great academic, both academic program and research work, and entire schools that just have really low facilities condition index scores that we need to address. That's Lindley, that's Twente, that's Robinson Center. We've already been working through those and doing resets on those buildings. We do have some renovations and some additions that we hope we're going to be able to pursue. We mentioned the School of Architecture, the renovation and the addition there. Again, that is 20 years of specialized accreditor visits saying you are not adequately supporting that school. And that school is internationally one of our programs that KU is most well known for. You can just pretty much bet any stadium in the country that's been built and any stadium in the world that's been built has somebody and some connection to KU architecture, because we do such great work there. We're also looking at the possibilities for a Student Success Center. We are very committed to doing our work to make sure we improve our retention and completion rates. We are behind the curve of what other institutions do in creating spaces where students can come together and get comprehensive support. And then you've heard about possibilities for School of Law renovation. And then Watson Library is celebrating its 100th anniversary. Watson Library is a beautiful building, but it has some significant maintenance and repair issues. And so we've got to figure out our way forward to address that, because that houses so many really important and critical resources that our faculty and our students use as they are in the learning environment. And then finally, there's just a couple of new buildings that are in the mix that we're talking about. And one is potential for a health and wellness center that you may be hearing more about as appropriate, that we hope to be driving forward. And then back to talking about Malat and Hayworth and where the core of the research is done in the main campus. We just, I can't begin to tell you how challenged we are with the facilities conditions there. One story I will share is that as part of our Research Rising work and growing our research in those 5 key areas. We have worked to hire molecular biologists, and we interviewed and made, I believe, over a dozen offers for that position, and people rejected that because the facilities, the lab space that we had available to them was just not adequate to standards of other offers that they were getting. So that kind of ties into the need to build a new interdisciplinary science building and be able to then figure out how we sunset what we have in Hayworth, or how we address going forward there. And then, of course, you know about the Memorial Stadium reconstruction, the conference center. And beyond that, there's some infrastructure needs. We have parking challenges. That's nothing new, but it's, again, more challenged on a hill than it might be in other places. We have utility infrastructure upgrades. I know more about HVAC, I think, than any provost should ever know, and mechanical and electrical facilities. And then, of course, we have technology, security, and safety upgrades that just kind of go with all the reasons why we know we need technology and security upgrades. And I believe with that, just kind of finishing up, our goal is to create a sustainable infrastructure that allows us to make this cultural transformation, that allows us to become that engaging kind of space that keeps driving people to the Hill for the next 100 years as we move forward. And with that, that's my last slide. Happy to stand for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Oh, Regent Winter.
Barb, you touched on this earlier in your presentation, but it is a 10-year plan, right? What assumptions have you made, if any, with respect to enrollment growth over that period of time?
So it's a really great question. And this actually kind of goes with, and thank you for the other proposal we put forward today in looking at, was it out-of-state rates? Out-of-state transfer. We are trying, we've done a lot of things with enrollment management and become very intentional and data informed and strategic on enrollment management. We sort of surprised ourselves with what we were able to do in terms of some of the work that we did. We are kind of at a sweet spot of about 5,250 or 5,300 students in a freshman class. And I'm looking back at Jeff DeWitt because he'll curse me if I go one way or the other on that, because that feeds into residence halls, because back to the infrastructure here and trying to figure out space. Jeff has done a remarkable job in terms of looking at, if you have that number of students and you really maintain those residence halls on a cycle, you got to be able to close something down for a little while so it can get cleaned up and fixed while you move someplace else, and you have to have flexible space. So long story short, we think we have a magic number that we're hoping that we can maintain of about 5,250 or 5,300 first-time, full-time freshmen every year. We don't know if we'll be able to hold that with enrollment cliff, which is one reason why we're thinking more and more about how do we hedge our bets with out-of-state students, and what are we able to do there. And we don't know if we'll be able to maintain that, but that's our goal roughly. I don't know, Doug or Jeff, if you'd add anything to that.
It definitely informs how you think about addressing these issues. So, and a good example is we needed to expand our housing in the immediate term. We expanded it with an apartment complex that endowment purchased for us from the private community. If we do get into challenges around enrollment, we can flip that back to the community, right? So you have to think, I think we have to think in the future about dual purpose investments, that we can take them a different direction should the marketplace demand that.
Good strategies have layers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, well, this is a plan we need to approve. So I would like to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the plan.
Thank you, Regent Winter. Looked like Regent Dykus was reaching for the mic.
I'll second that.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? All in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation and all the work. Okay, item 5 got deferred. So that takes us to 6. Regent Benson, You want Elaine to handle the next three?
Yes, I will
Okay.
defer to Vice President Frisbee.
All right. On all three, right? Okay, all right.
Thank you. All right, so now we've jumped ahead to page 117 of the materials. This next item is for approval of distribution of some state funding. This is for the public university system. This is for IT infrastructure and cybersecurity. This is funding that was given from the legislature. This is the third year running. This is a smaller amount than received in the first year when we received 20 million, but yet so valuable for institutions. I think the provost just mentioned the need for improving technology infrastructure. The proposal originally put forth, as noted at the very bottom of 117 by the CIOs, was to allocate or distribute the rest of the funding available. So I want to clarify for those who are not on fiscal affairs that the amounts that you see on page 118 are not what was proposed by the CIOs. This is a little bit of an alteration to hold back some of the funding so that they can come back to you at a later month, perhaps November or December, with a collaborative proposal on how they might devote the rest of the state funding for more common system projects. The items that you see at the top of page 118, the third-party penetration testing, and then prioritized cyber governance and visibility and cybersecurity tools, movement to cloud, and asset lifecycle management, so replacing outdated technology, or what the CIOs would like to use this 1.83 million for. And I'd be happy to stand for questions if I can. Got some CIOs online as well.
Any questions?
There are no questions, Mr. Chair. I'd move for approval.
Okay, is there a second?
I'd second.
Hey, I think it's wise to hold some back and prepare for a joint approach. So I applaud that for what it's worth. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Item 7, related to the previous item. The next item would be for you to adopt new board policy. This relates to governance of cybersecurity, information technology, and risk management. So cybersecurity as a subset of risk management. So in the past, we've been up to the universities to consider these matters internally. This would impose a more standardized rubric for the universities to offer an annual report within their security report to the governance committee. It would formalize into a recognized council, our CETOs and our security folks. It would designate that each campus will have, require a designated IT officer and an information security officer at each of the state universities, and that they have internal processes documented. This would also establish an enterprise risk management process at each university. I want to recognize our colleagues at the campuses. I think John Curran, the Chief Risk Officer from University of Kansas, is here. He was here this morning for governance as well. This was the policy in front of you was documented and developed in collaboration across the system of universities. So has been refined slightly from what was initially proposed to you or presented to you at the retreat. Mostly to bolster what the CETOs need to have under their authority to make changes and provide more rigor to what they do in overseeing campus networks. Be happy to answer questions. And again, I know that there are IT folks online who can also assist.
And I might add that, as mentioned in the governance report, governance did review this today and we recommend approval from that meeting. And one of the things we discussed was that, particularly in enterprise risk management, that we're requiring a risk management approach, but we're recognizing that there's variability sometimes in how the right way to do that for a given organization, I'll say. So we were well aligned with this. Any other questions, or any questions rather?
Chair, Chair Ice, I just wanted to reiterate it. I'm happy to see this. Is there any observations from the CIOs coming together on putting this together? Were there huge discrepancies from one university to another?
I would need to defer to them, Regent Parasker. I don't know if Angela or Ken from Wichita State, if anyone has comments on
They're
it.
lighting up, so they must.
Angela?
Hello. There was not great discrepancies. Everyone in our team, in our group, the Ritzy group, is quite excited about this opportunity. We really feel that it will improve the system cybersecurity posture. And we're excited about the risk management piece of this. We know that business processes and policies need to be evaluated, and the risk in those policies need to be evaluated across each of our institutions. So we think that this will help the Regents in a great way. It's a very positive mood. Ken, anything that I missed?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we meet regularly, we review priorities regularly, so I think we got to alignment relatively quickly.
That's good. Thank you.
All right, thanks again. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, so we've moved and seconded for approval. All in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We didn't move in second on this one.
thought we
moved in
did.
second on the last one.
Oop, okay.
But I'll move on this and I'll just reiterate, when it came up in governance, it takes buy-in at the top, obviously with these new policies. So I know you guys are reviewing and seeing it all, but it's gonna require action, I think, from the leaders at the university, senior leaders. So with that, I'd move for approval.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Okay, it's now moved and seconded. All in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Next item. On page 124, Wichita State has presented an item for your request to revise the tuition assistance policies for their employees and the employee spouses and dependent children. There's a description of the changes outlined on page 124 carrying over to 125. One part of the request is to seek a limited exception to the board's policy for tuition assistance to expand the eligibility to those benefits eligible employees of one of their affiliated corporations, which is the athletic corporation.
So moved.
All right, thank you. There a second? Okay, any discussion? I mean, I do think it's always helpful when the people on our teams have an opportunity for a benefit that we can deliver in a way that's helpful and beneficial to them for good, effectively a good cost kind of approach to it. All right, all in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, give your revision, Ms. President Muma. All right. So that takes us to the academic affairs section of the discussion. Chair Mendoza, do you have anything that you want to suggest now, or can we just go all rusty up? Okay, Vice President Monholland, please.
Thank you, Chair Ice. FAFSA completion is a key element in achieving the goals of building a future. It's also a critical metric because it correlates very clearly with high school to college going rates. Only 51% of the Kansas high school class of 2024 completed the FAFSA, which ranks us 39th nationally. To increase FAFSA completion over the past several years, we've supported the Kansas FAFSA Challenge. Today, we are recognizing Kansas high schools that have had great success in student FAFSA completion. I'd like to invite my colleague, Misty Knox, who has done just an outstanding job coordinating the Kansas FAFSA Challenge, to come forward and announce this year's recipients. Misty? Where's Misty? No. Well, I guess I will. wing it here, move forward. The awards are based on the Kansas High School athletic classification. So there's seven different classifications. The results are using enrollment data submitted by the high schools. And then we use FAFSA completion information gathered from studentaid.gov and the Kansas FAFSA tracker. Recognition includes each division is recognized for the highest FAFSA completion rate. And just in the nick of time, Misty walks in. So I'll turn it over to you, Misty.
So again, this FAFSA completion challenge was launched in 2021. There are 7 divisions divided by size based on CASHA classifications. There's also been an added division for virtual and academy and alternate high schools. The results are calculated using the KSD senior class enrollment data. So they send that directly to us so we can utilize that for the percentages. And the FAFSA percentages are gathered straight from the U.S. Department of Ed site. And that's also tracked on our Kansas FAFSA tracker data. So recognition includes the highest FAFSA completion rate and then also schools meeting 70% or higher FAFSA completion rate. So the top 5 schools in each category or division are listed on the website. Slide. So each school, based on their division and recognition, are receiving a trophy. You can see on the left, that's going to be the highest FAFSA completion rate for each division. And then on the right is the 70% or higher FAFSA completion rate recognition. So for the 6A, we'd like to recognize Mill Valley High School from Shawnee, Kansas. They received a 55% completion. For the 5A high school division, we'd like to recognize a 4th-year winner, Sumner Academy of Arts and Science. They reached 73% completion rate. Labette County High School, they reached a 63% completion rate for the 4A division. And then Frontenac High School, they are representing a 3A division at 75% completion. Smith Center High School is the winner for the 2A division at 79%. Wheatland High School, congratulations to them. In the 1A division, they had 100% completion rate. The highest FAFSA completion rate for our virtual academy division at 55% is Mays Virtual Preparatory High School. And then our winners for the 70% or higher FAFSA completion rate are listed there for you. Wheatland, again, Central Plains, Cunningham, Hanover, Tri-Plains in Winona, Little River, Smith Center, South Barber, Meade, and then next page. As you can see here, there's a difference. There's a 3A, there's even a 5A schools on here, 1A, 2A schools, and so forth. But Frontenac again, Sumner Academy, Clifton, Clyde, Heston, Mower Hill, Smoky Valley, Bishop Ward, Wichita County, and Decatur Community High School. So we have a FAFSA Challenge website. Feel free to take a look at that. Actually, our top 5 winners, again, are recognized on the website and will be up throughout the year. We will begin this FAFSA Challenge again when the financial aid application opens December 1st this year. But our winners are showcased on our website. And also there's a link there to the Kansas FAFSA tracker if you want to look up your high school completion rate. So today we were able to recognize Greg. He stopped by the board office today from Smith Center High School. So you can see there, Chair Ice was able to give him his 2 trophies from Smith Center High School. So thank you. And there's quite a few individuals live streaming, schools live streaming in today as well. So congratulations to our 2024 FAFSA Challenge winners.
So congratulations to the winners, although my note says I'm supposed to ask for a motion to approve, which I sure hope happens since I gave those trophies away. So is there such a motion?
I would move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you. Let's vote real fast. All in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Congratulations to all the winners. We appreciate everything you're doing. So congratulations. Do we have anybody else here that we would give the trophies to? I guess not, since Misty's leaving. Okay, all right. Again, congratulations. Okay, we'll call on Counselor Erie to talk about the conflict of interest disclosures.
Not as exciting as FAFSA challenge.
Well, it depends on how well you do it, you know?
Okay, so the materials for this start on page 128 of your packet. Board of Regents policy governing board member conflicts of interest calls for disclosure of certain transactional interest, memberships and affiliations, and provides the board will review those disclosures and make participation determinations at the September board meeting. So all of you in July received conflict of interest disclosure forms, and we collected those either at the retreat or shortly after. And this gives a summary of the results of that. So in accordance with board policy, the board is now to include the reported interest in the minutes of the board meeting, and with regard to each reported membership or affiliation on a governing board or affiliated corporation, make a determination regarding the permissibility of accepting or continuing to serve in such capacity. And with regard to each contract or transaction, direct the involved regent to excuse himself or herself from participating on behalf of the board in actions involving that contract or transactions. So regarding memberships and affiliation, one regent will serve on a governing board of an institution that is coordinated by the board. Regent Dykus will serve on the Kansas Board of Regents as the Kansas Board of Regents appointee to the Board of Regents of Washburn University in accordance with the statutory requirement. Two regents have reported service on a governing board of a non-controlled affiliated corporation of an institution that's governed by the board. Regent Dykus serves as a trustee and investment committee member of the KU Endowment Association, a non-controlled affiliated corporation of the University of Kansas. Regent Benson serves as a member of the executive board of the Pittsburgh State University Foundation, a non-controlled affiliated corporation of Pittsburgh State University. One regent has reported service on an advisory board of an institution that's governed by the board. Regent Dykus serves as a board member of the University of Kansas School of Business Dean's Advisory Board. One regent has reported service on a non-governing board of an affiliated corporation of an institution that is coordinated by the board. Regent Dykus serves as a trustee on the Washburn University Foundation Board, a non-governing board of the Washburn University Foundation. And I've got this addition that's not reflected in your materials, but one regent has reported service on a non-governing board of an affiliated corporation of an institution that's governed by the board, and Regent Ice serves on the Kansas State University Foundation Board of Trustees. And then one regent has reported service on the governing board of an entity created by the governor through an executive order of an organization created to assist with the Department of Commerce. Regent Parasker serves as a member of the Kansas Works, which is an advisory board originally created by Executive Order 1506 to assist in establishing and coordinating workforce programs in the state of Kansas. And also serves on the Kansas Apprenticeship Council, which is created to assist the Apprenticeship Registration Office. So staff, with regard to these affiliations and memberships, staff recommends approving Regent Dykus, Benson's, Ice's, and Parasker's continued service on these boards. KSA 13-13A04A4 provides that one member of the Washburn University Board of Regents shall be a member of the Kansas Board of Regents, as this is a statutorily required appointment, is not considered a conflict for purpose of board policy. Service on the board of an affiliated corporation that exists to conduct research or raise and manage funds for respective educational institution is generally in line with the board's mission and goals, would be unlikely to constitute an actual conflict of interest, and is more likely to be beneficial to an institution than potentially harmful to the board or the system. Because the University of Kansas School of Business Board of Advisors is an advisory board rather than a governing board for the university, or one of the affiliated corporations. Service on this board is not subject to the Board of Regents conflict of interest policy. And similarly, the Washburn University Foundation Board of Trustees and the Kansas State University Foundation Board of Trustees are not governing boards of those foundations. Service on those boards are not subject to the board's conflict of interest policy. Service on Kansas Works Board and the Kansas Apprenticeship Council likewise do not fall under the board's conflict policy. Board approval of Regent Dicus, Benson's, ICE's, and Parasker's continued service on these boards should nonetheless be conditioned on their recognition that their duty is first and foremost to the Board of Regents, and that any actual conflict does arise, they will take appropriate action to manage that or remedy that conflict. Next, we have contracts and transactions. So board policy states that no member of the board having such interest shall participate on behalf of the board in the authorization of any contract or transactions. So the contracts or transactions with Regents have reported direct or indirect interest are as follows. 5 Regents have reported interest in an entity that has entered one or more contracts or transactions with one or more institutions that are governed or coordinated by the board. Regent Benson is employed by the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce, which occasionally and has business and transactions with Pittsburgh State University. Regent Benson's a member of the Board of Directors for the Crawford County Career and Technical Education Center, which is a standalone 501c3 that leases space to Fort Scott Community College for community college classes. Regent Benson's a graduate student at in the Master of Business Administration program at Pittsburgh State University. Regent Ice has an ownership interest in a radio station, KACY, in Arkansas City, or Kansas City, that does some advertising for Cali County Community College. Regent Ice is not involved in the management or operation of this station, and thus has no direct involvement in the station's relationship with the college. Regent Ice also has a 1% ownership interest in a company, Rat Coach, that has a business relationship with a coach in Johnson County Community College. Regent Ice is not involved in the management or operation of Rat Coach, and including its relationship with the college coach. Regent Mendoza is a doctoral student at Kansas State University. Regent Parasker has 100% ownership interest in Snap IT Solutions, which is a limited liability company that conducts trainings for which the Board of Regents provides certificates of approval to offer in Kansas, and is a partner in Nalafer Venture Holdings, which owns related intellectual property. And Regent Winter has a 2.12% ownership interest in Ad Astra Integrity Measurement Systems Incorporated, which is a cybersecurity startup in which the KU Center for Research also has a less than 10% equity investment. Neither Regent Winter nor KUCR have a controlling interest or position with Ad Astra, and currently Ad Astra has no contractual agreements with KU or KUCR. So with regard to these transactional or contractual interest, staff recommends directing Regent Benson to excuse himself from participating on behalf of the board in matters involving or related to any contract or transaction between the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce and Pittsburgh State University, or concerning the lease of space by Fort Scott Community College from Crawford County Career and Technical Education Center, directing Regent Ice to excuse himself for participating on behalf of the board in matters involving or related to a contract or a transaction impacting KAC radio station or Rat Coach, directing Regent Parasker to excuse herself from participating on behalf of the board in matters involving impacting or related to Snap IT or Nalafer Venture Holdings, and directing Regent Winter to excuse himself from participating on behalf of the board in matters involving impacting or related to Ad Astra. It's noted that the Board of Regents generally would not be asked to approve any activity surrounding a community college's advertising contracts or athletics personnel. And staff recommends directing Regent Mendoza and Regent Benson to excuse themselves from any board action directly impacting the programs to which they are enrolled.
You can tell that the Regents take filling these forms out quite seriously.
I think we need GPAs before we vote on this to make sure you guys are representing us well.
I'd move that we approve.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion?
No, you can vote on yourself since it covers everybody, I think, right?
State your name.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so everyone will judge themselves accordingly or conduct themselves accordingly, and we don't view we have real conflicts. All right, thanks, John. Okay, President Muma, you're bringing us home.
So this request seeks approval by you all to award an honorary doctorate to Judge David Dahl, currently the Division II Judge of the 18th Judicial District Court in Sedgwick County. Judge Dahl is a Shocker alum and played as a guard for the men's basketball team from 1968 to 1971, where he was twice voted as the most inspirational player. He has since been part of our Shocker Nation, serving on the broadcast team since 1980. And in 2010, he was inducted into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. After graduation, he went on to a long career in law, spanning over 3 decades before being elected as district court judge. For all the work that he's done and has yet to do, I believe this is an excellent candidate for this award, and I respectfully request your approval.
I'd move to approve.
Is there a second? Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye, please. Any opposed? Sounds like a very worthy candidate.
Very worthy, great guy.
Yeah, all right. So that concludes the planned agenda for today. We'll see you in the morning. Thank you all very much. We stand adjourned.